And welcome back yet again, ladies and gentlemen, to the LCS Proving Grounds right here on the LCS. I will be your host for the evening ravishing, the most ravishing man on the internet. I'm joined here by my side by my main man, the Cage in the Rage, and Deathstroke's Eric Beltran. What's going on with y'all, babies? Y'all good?
Yeah, I would say that I am good. I am feeling great about this series, and League of Legends, man, what a game that we get to cast today.
And Proving Grounds, what a tournament that we get to cast. What a tournament that we get to see unfold. The storylines that are going through, especially with some of the teams that are going to be showing up right here, are going to be exciting to watch.
And I mean, Eric, you hit it right on the mark there. Like, considering we have one of our main storylines in this tournament happening tonight. You know, the Proving Grounds buff that is currently still alive for Golden Guardians, going all the way throughout the losers bracket, and you know, with TLA too, with all these changes. So we really are going to have to depend and see what's going to happen, because today is the losers finals. Somebody is going home and somebody is going off. Yeah, look at you see it right here in front of you. Lucas's Finals BO5. Thank you, production, for bolstering my point even more. Wonderful to see, but to really kind of find out how we got here, though, Eric, talk to me about the journey.
This has been a pretty wild journey. For Team Liquid, straight and simple, you know, they did go through the amateur squads contesting with a lot of the academy squads. They had that banger of a match with Dignitas as well as 100 Thieves Academy that was almost a little bit of a rematch that we saw with the academy semifinals that happened earlier this summer. Then you have to look at what's been going on with Golden Guardians as well as we look deeper into this bracket, because Golden Guardians is who they're going to be going up against. And this is a squad that fell off right from the get-go. They dropped to Evil Genius's Academy and then made a tear through the lower bracket. They made a tear through the losers bracket, you know, taking down a lot of these other academy squads, taking out a lot of big names. Cloud9 Academy, the old Kings of Academy finalists, took them down. Wildcard Red, one of the fastest teams in this tournament, and amateur favorites, you know, having powerhouses such as Arrow, they beat them at their own game off of Yunbi's LeBlanc. Immortals, two members, Viper and Anda, being Spring's defending champions of Proving Grounds. Golden Guardians able to get through them as well. So both of these teams are looking very hyped up as we get into this matchup here today.
And there's a lot that's been changing in addition to the stuff that's been consistent for both of these teams. Team Liquid Academy going straight through all these teams, going 2-0, 2-0, 2-1, and then finally losing the series to 100 Thieves Academy. But there's always that caveat that you got to talk about. There has been a change in roster. Now we have, instead of Jenkins and Armeo, now I have Inori and Dokla taking over the jungle and top lane. So it's going to be a bit of a difference. And I feel like the adjustments that we saw yesterday, or rather 2 days ago, were, you know, they were made, and eventually Team Liquid Academy found some form of footing with their new roster. But Golden Guardians Academy, they've kept the same roster the entire tournament, and they've been looking amazing throughout the entire lower bracket. And I feel like that momentum coming into today is what's going to decide this matchup in this best of 5.
And that right there is the biggest thing, right? Considering who has more momentum to be able to get through this right now. So the GGA, I already said it before, right at the top of the show, this whole anime buff that they got going on is huge. After losing the first time, it seems as though the lower brackets are where they performed in the previous tournament that they were in when they first got newbie. They absolutely popped off, made a deep run there. And honestly, I find that with the story that we had going there was also prevalent for Immortals as well. But considering they beat them yesterday, so now with them out of the picture, GGA have come such a long way in just this past month. It has been phenomenal to watch their growth. But Cage, I did want to get your thoughts on, you know, what we've seen out of these two rosters and the big changes up front for both of them.
Well, first, let's start with Team Liquid Academy. We talked about how they do have a different top and jungle, and I feel like the dynamic between the team has changed a little bit. I feel like the strengths that they brought in are different now than what we saw against 100 Thieves just a couple days ago. So when they come together, I feel like they play for the late game, they play for the disengage, and Golden Guardians Academy, I believe that was you, Ravish, that talked to Niles earlier and Niles was the one saying, there is a similarity between the two teams. Team Liquid, with the Armeo Jenkins lineup, was the better version, according to Niles, of Golden Guardians Academy. So seeing how Golden Guardians Academy is going to be changing today, hopefully they'll be able to make the adaptations necessary to deal with a relatively new team to the Proving Grounds, and maybe they'll be able to find the series, but we'll have to see how the games play out.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing about it when we look at Dokla and Inori coming into this. It's that comfort, that familiarity, because Golden Guardians Academy have been playing with the same roster for a long time now. Since they got Newbie, they've been running through a lot of different tournaments. They've played a lot of League of Legends this summer, way more than Team Liquid's been able to play, especially with this roster. I believe only 10 games on record with Inori and Dokla being on their Academy team. So it's going to be some adjustments. They do have some familiarity having them there. Dokla is a very aggressive player to see. He does like grabbing stuff like the Jace and the Renekton. Loves to try and be that high econ, high pressure over in the top side, which is not completely along the same lines of Jenkins, but Inori does adapt to that quite well. Inori plays with Dokla quite well. It's a little bit of wildcard red being led over towards Team Liquid, so Amateur not completely dead just yet. Putting some of my hopes in there, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough squad to get through, to be able to adapt that fast mid-tournament and challenge Golden Guardians.
Yeah, because TLA are one of the top seeds too. Because say what you will, even with them after the change, right? They still managed to stay cut these all the way to 5 games, and although besides some almost some mismatches, they've looked phenomenal across the board. The one main point I do want to hit on the side of GGA, consider the journey they've had over the past month, the revolutionary changes, and the team really has come together. In fact, and the word announced too, and I find just about the entire team as a whole, right? For them, it is all about the bigger picture. Every single decision they make and how they make their plays across the map, it is all for the team. And I believe getting word that the draft is almost ready too. But Destrux, big point from you.
Just the last one I do want to throw in there is GGA have adapted so well as a team, and the way they've been able to play together is through this late game stalling where, they have some form of agency drafted towards the late, and this is what the challenge is. You're going against Team Liquid, who has a much more profound early to mid game. So it's going to be a huge question if Golden Guardians can do that stall onto Team Liquid. You do have Niles, who works great in the side lanes and likes to play those champions who stall out a lot, as well as Newbie, who facilitates a lot of the team fights for Golden Guardians Academy. It's going to be a tricky game to see. It's going to be an exciting game to see. It kind of throws me back to shades of Golden Guardians Academy versus Wildcard Red and what we had there, the tempo matchup where Golden Guardians were able to get that win using Wildcard Zone strategy. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for this matchup. I want to see how Golden Guardians can adapt that early to mid game to try and compete with Team Liquid.
Changes the name of the game today, but one thing we will not change will be our casters that we have coming at you in just a little bit. That being Rebel Fox and Mazel 2. After this short break, we'll see y'all then.
Welcome one and all. We are here at the semifinals of the LCS Proving Grounds 2021 Summer Split. We're about to dive into a best of 5. I'm Mazel, joined by the one, the only, the Rebel Fox. Couldn't be more excited to be alongside you today, buddy.
Yeah, doing my best Vex impression because of the new champion release with the new background and whatnot. But yeah, the only thing that could get me out of bed a lot faster than what is semifinals for Proving Grounds, which is already going to kick me out faster, is a nice cast with you, my friend, because it's been a hot minute since we've had a chance to cover some Proving Grounds teams, and what a series we did get come back for.
Yeah, exactly that. And we're looking at, Team Liquid Academy having a lot of success, a lot of growth throughout the summer split, running into Golden Guardians Academy, who are on a tear, on that miracle run or attempted miracle run through the lower bracket. And both these teams have everything to prove tonight.
I dubbed it earlier on in the tournament for the side of GGA. They get the Proving Grounds buff. It's only been 2 splits, and both times they have exceeded expectations for how they were supposed to do. Of course, that first split, they got 5th, or I believe it was 7th, 8th place, despite having the 10th place finish in Academy. This time, 8th place finish in Academy into what is now a top 3 finish, looking to make that even better today. The team, obviously, end of the season, they're able to figure things out over the course of the split. We know they talked about wanting to develop this roster all together. It's clear that they've been able to finally make massive strides in that regard.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is to see the potential for both teams, right? This was a TLA team last year who was down in the dumps, right? And Spawn comes in as a very well-known figure, but as a preliminary coach coming in for TLA, and completely turns around this entire program this year. And yes, there's a lot to be said about there's still things to be proven by TL Academy, but to be able to come this far, and especially at these last second roster swaps, and to be able to continue pushing through that, it's huge. So it's a testament to Spawn's camp here. We'll see what it can do as we're going to be diving into the draft, Rebel. And it's going to be a spicy one, as one of the big focuses for us is that top side of the map early, and it's definitely the Niles v Dokla show here to see who's going to be coming out on top. Now, I did get word we're already past the first pick phase, so I'm going to speed us through, get us caught up, and Rebel, we'll get the big brain analysis afterwards. So, Golden Guardians Academy on the blue side. They do ban away the Aurelia, the Jace, the Cassiopeia. 3 decent bans coming off the board. The Ziggs, TF, and Rise, the bans away by TLA. Then the first pick was the LeBlanc, followed by the Varus Thresh traditional lock-in by TLA. Ezreal, Braum were the bot lane counter picks for GGA. Azir is the final pick in the first phase for TLA.
Let's just looking at like how this split has gone for both teams. The side of GGA isn't that kind of shocking whatsoever. You've got something defensive for the likes of Prismal. Newbie can play into his lane, but he can roam around on the likes of that Braum. And of course, when it comes to Yunbi champion pool, he's got the LeBlanc. The Rise is really huge, and the TF is also really huge. You know those two are taken off for that reason. And once the Rise was off the board, now there isn't that kind of immediate response for any laner to take into LeBlanc. They grab that first overall. Harry's response is the Azir, something that he goes back to. He's had a lot more responses to the Rise, which is a little shocking to me that instead of giving Rise over to Yunbi after yesterday and having the Cassiopeia a couple of times, they instead say, all right, we're cool with the Azir into LeBlanc, but I do like their bottom lane setup even more. Ayla able to take this Thresh out and about on the map, help out the Varus for Yon. A bit of an earlier game kind of focus to make sure they can punish what is Prismo, who likes to sit, wait for that team fighting phase, do a ton of damage once you get to that point. But that early game tends to be a lot more relaxed, much more focused on farming.
We get the first gauntlet thrown down in that top lane match that we were talking about. The Camille coming out for TLA as their first pick in the second phase, but we'll see what the response is here. Golden Guardians do still have their double pick right now to try and finish out their composition here. But the other thing I want to highlight, and leaning into what I was talking about Spawn before we get into the draft, Thin-Card on the other side has been huge. Being able to, temper the mentals and everything like that along GGA. We know a lot of these teams or players have a boisterous past, but being able to harness that and utilize it as a weapon here for GGA, it's been so successful for them. And they're gonna double lock in the Viego GP because you gave it over to Niles anyways, and now TLA have to respond with something of their own.
It is a preference pick that we see Niles go back to time and time again. And it's another pick of a Rose Thorn that, again, kind of plays into this a little bit more focused on team fighting, focused to scaling. It's a composition that GGA is really kind of known for, being able to go for more of that, like, 5-person, waiting through the early game, trying to make sure that they don't lose quickly, and then taking it into the later stages. Go for some of the Baron fights, go for some of the 5-on-5s. That's what they put a bunch of their focus onto. I'm loving also the individual picks coming out here. And Nori, when he was brought in initially for Team Liquid, this was one of the champions that he started flexing into the jungle right after it had kind of got dropped from the mid lane, top lane pool. He made a video on it in the midst of the split. He was the expert at this champion, going right back to that comfort pick, responding to that kind of a scaling jungler on the other side with one of his own.
Yeah, I think you were talking to me about it before we got dealt this. Got to watch out for the Nocturnes, watch out for this. I was like, I don't know anymore. We'll see. But some comfort is definitely the name of the game for TL Academy. And something else going into this, now that we have both team comps kind of set up, was we were looking at what kind of early game we're going to see from both these teams. You know, we have seen traditions where the late game is king for both of these teams, and more so GGA in the recency, but TLA in the past, and seeing what kind of approach both these teams are going to be taking today.
It was one where we were contemplating, because on one side you have Team Liquid Academy, who up until this point in Proving Grounds has a 100% win rate when they've got a gold advantage at 15 minutes into the game, which is a very impressive stat to talk about. And obviously that's going to be good for anybody to have an early advantage. But Team Liquid 100% win rate when you've got an advantage, kind of insane, especially when they're going against GGA, who on average will have a gold deficit against the side. So this here, Team Liquid feels like they don't have a composition specifically designed for the early game advantage, playing a bit more for that like later 5-on-5, something that they really did well with in that Academy playoffs.
Yeah, very excited to see GGA's response as well. They got the GP Niles, see if the rest of the team can bolster him up. We will have to take a little break here while we do load up into the game. You're not going to want to touch that browser, because game 1 of this best of 5 is about to kick off. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The LCS Proving Grounds 2021 Summer Semifinals kicks off now. The first game of this best of 5, Team Liquid Academy taking on the Golden Guardians Academy.
An exciting matchup nonetheless. Deciding who it is that's going to jump into our finals matchup. A little curious to me. I saw this bot lane kind of run directly up, and I saw Niles walk through. A couple of times in this tournament, we've had people, specifically top laners, will find their way into that brush from the red side, and they get pinched from both directions, and it costs lives. Trying to catch out Dokla in this situation. GGA understand, especially with the early game that Niles is known for on this GP. Being able to get that advantage would have been huge for this matchup in the one-on-one, but Dokla thankfully has the support of his of Ayla in that top side. Able to not fall victim, just going to hang back by the Krugs, make sure no invade's going to come in through that top side instead.
I will say the gauntlet thrown down, the Camille picked before the top lane matchup was even decided for TLA. They've got to have something cooking. The Spawn's got the big brain over there. We got to see what they can work out, what they've been able to work on, knowing that they're going into this matchup, knowing that Niles is a key starting point for GGA, and the rest of the team follows along as well. So I'm really excited to see this early game, and especially what kind of pathing we see from Inori and Rosestorm, because although we've said the top side of the map is a definite majority, we can see some differentiations in that.
We might. It seems like Inori is heading down towards the bottom side of the map right now, which, again, for coverage or being able to try to gank for a strong side of the map is going to be helpful. But if you're able to kind of rip away some of the control from what Niles and Yunbi are going to have in the middle of the game, in the later stage of the game, things of that sort, helping out those two is going to be huge for your team in shutting out the side of GGA, because you know Niles is going to be perfectly fine in that lane state just because of his proficiency on Gangplank alone into the Camille. And then you've got eventually like LeBlanc side laning against the Azir. It's not the easiest for the Azir in the later stages. Has to take the electrocute just to bridge this early game gap so that you don't just get one tapped by a full rotation from LeBlanc. This feels like where Inori needs to focus the pressure. Bottom side should be fine with Yon and Ayla into this very defensive setup of the Ezreal Braum. So I would expect Inori to, especially on the second clear start, really start to have impact into these two solo lanes for Team Liquid Academy, because GGA, that's where they're banking for a lot of their early game most of the time as well.
Yeah, that level 6 part for Inori is going to be huge, especially just get the tempo rolling a little bit for TLA. I mean, we obviously said that some later game efficiencies are going to come online for TLA, but it doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt to have your Nocturne start off with a little bit of gold in his pocket to help those initiations, to help those startups when you do get to those objectives and things along those lines for these teams. So definitely got to keep our side eye on Inori, but so far it is also Rosestorm pathing towards the top. That seems actually not going to win for Ayla. I was actually looking at the map to see if Rosestorm was going to path up there, maybe try to get a little bit more aggression on Copa. Not going to happen just yet, but it's going to go for a little bit of an invade here.
Lanes feel perfectly fine on top side. It was a crash here from Niles, which allows him now to take this kind of earlier back.
Yunbi almost goes down to Hayri. That was a little bit close.
Yeah, in this earlier phase with the Electrocute, this is kind of the potential that you've got. Because LeBlanc's wave clear is contingent on her using distortion and things of that sort, it's difficult to get a bunch of lane priority without burning a large amount of your health. So right there, Rosethorn called in, making sure to keep Harry at bay, allowing this back timer for Yunbi to get him out of this kind of earlier stage against the likes of the Azir, where the lane isn't in the LeBlanc's favor, at least until later, when again, that damage starts to ramp up, and all of a sudden Yunbi can take that one-on-one against the likes of the Azir by just one-tapping him with a whole combo.
And I will point out that Rosethorn is headed down bot lane. Doesn't have any camps right now, at least that now the Krugs are going to be coming up. But I was wondering if maybe we see a little bit of that aggression typically known from a Viego that can come out early on, or if we continue to see that second clear come through and for him to match Inori when he gets to the level 6 mark. But Inori's going for a lane game.
Yeah, this is the setup off of that first full clear into the second full clear. Unfortunately, Niles, off the back of that, like the crash that had just happened, puts that ward down, understanding that this was a possibility. Now Viego into the bottom side.
There he is. I said maybe he's looking for it. Rosethorn going to get a little bit of damage on the Yon, but it's not going to come up with anything. A decent amount of damage returned. Maybe he does have the shield, does get poked out by the piercing arrow, but Ayla and Yon stay strong.
They do. Gank into the bottom side immediately after the mid lane, broke out Yunbi immediately, and then Rosethorn heads down to bottom side. Will continue with the clear after the Krugs were taken right here, just to try to alleviate a bit of pressure. They burned the heal out of Yon, which I think was really good. Came off the back of that control ward, getting dropped on top of the Lantern, pulling a bit of resource out of what is this powerful lane. Ayla feeling a bit of those effects as well. The concussive blow stacks with those Qs out of Ezreal makes it so easy when there aren't minions around to hide behind to try to get that stun.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. You already see as well, as Yunbi was on his way actually passing down towards bot lane, just in case TLA wanted to be a little bit more aggressive. He's going to go back towards mid lane, but we'll still see the trading go down. Nubi almost dies, and Prismal almost joins him as well.
Difficulty of this early laning phase here. When you have the Ezreal Braum, you're playing incredibly defensively, you're playing into this Varus Thresh, you've got the double like ranged advantage, you've got a lot of early power with this Hail of Blades. It's so difficult to manage here. This is part of the pressure that can be applied by the side of Team Liquid Academy. It buys them a bunch of space on bottom side, gives them a good powerful early lane to play around for the most part, and also opens a bottom side for Dragon, something that we want to put a bunch of kind of notion towards, because if these two teams do intend on playing for the later stages, Dragon control and having the ability to play for third, fourth Dragon, the pressure it's going to apply to your opposition is something that you're going to have to keep track of over the course of the series.
It absolutely is, and we see TLA able to get their first Dragon of the game because of the priority they had gotten on bot lane, the bullying rather that they've done to Nubi and Prism down there. Their time will come later though as we get further into the game, but already it's that simple macro play that we wanted to see, if we were going to see, from these teams today, and TLA has already started the ball on the right foot.
We've now approached the level 6 mark for all the solo laners, and then Inori and Rosethorn will be there in a very quick second. And while I would say for Rosethorn, when he's looking for setup somewhere on the map, it's actually best when Newbie is around, and Nori can generate that attention of his own. This is the moment where all of a sudden the Nocturne starts to break onto the map with some of the aggression that we're looking for to help out what is your top lane matchup, what is your mid lane matchup, things like that, to make sure that advantage continues for the side of TLA. And this is where also Golden Guardians, this is something that they were able to accomplish against Immortals in a lot of their games, which was when early pressure gets applied to them, they're able to respond to it in kind. If you lose 2 kills, you get 1 back. If you lose 3 kills, you get 3 back. If you lose 1 kill, you get 1 back. And that was what got them in the later stages.
He does have the
Nice.
dark passage there. Oh no, and the cannon barrage came down, just keep him off the wave. Maybe the damage will be there, but it's just too much. And there's too much health, at least on Yana, and not enough bodies here as Rosethorn's still walking his way around. Newbie will take a couple tower shots. It goes down. Ayla picks up first blood. Maybe we'll see the response. There's the Heartbreaker, and Rosethorn gets 1. Maybe want to go for 2. Piercing arrows there. Paranoia's already popped to try and help. They're on top lane fighting as a double kill goes down. Dokla gets the kill on Niles. We're tied 2-2 with Chaos across the map, Rebel.
Forcing into the bottom lane is the Rosethorn, able to find at least 1 gank, leads to a dive that isn't set up so perfectly, and they end up losing 1 off the back, especially first blood to the Thresh, and then the response dive on the other side of the map, easy enough for the Nocturne to be able to respond to with that ultimate, finding that pressure and relieving that 2-for-1 kill on the bottom side of the map. Good from both sides. It's GGA playing into bottom lane, trying to put down the Varus and the Thresh as much as possible, given that that's the strength of TLA, and the response play on the other side, alleviating some of the pressure here for the Camille and getting some gold into that pocket for the one-on-one matchup.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. We talked about how much volatility can potentially come to the top lane. We talked about volatility. We're looking at mid lane. Hayri almost able to find a decent amount of damage on Yunbi. The play from Golden Guardians Academy was to move up here and get the Rift Herald, so they do have their eyes on these neutral objectives, and the full team was able to be there to help. Now mid lane's in some distress here, though, as it does look like Prismal and Nuvi are going to have to rejoin that fight to try and stop the push going down, but they also have Yunbi and Rosethorn right around the corner. So TLA will back off.
Right after the play on bottom side, you saw GGA's bot lane deploy through mid to assist in that, and then also into top lane to make sure the TP from Niles was going to get covered so he doesn't just immediately get ganked again from Dokla and from Inori to not ruin anything. The trade-off is bottom lane gets pushed in from Yon, so they wrestle away the Rift Herald, something that we see Team Liquid Academy usually actually put the priority on. Great way to engage into this. Again, this concussive blow is so hard to deal with. The Lantern gets out. This was interesting to me. I thought that the GP ultimate that was initially for Yon was actually to cut the wave to set up a dive for Rosethorn, which I think in terms of communication, it was there, but Newbie getting hooked, pulled under tower, dying to the tower shot, did throw a wrench and everything. If they pull both these kills in response to what is the dive on the top side into Niles when he loses this entire wave, it looks amazing for the side of GGA. They are perfectly comfortable with that, but unfortunately that lost first blood, I think, ended up turning this back to the side of TLA in the end.
Yeah, it's a bit of a fortunate circumstance there, but as Niles himself said to Ravish when he was talking to him, GGA play as a team. They don't go for solo plays. There's always a bigger team picture in mind, and there's an evidence of that there, the bot lane play, and unfortunately the sacrifice from Niles.
That is. We get to see now what is like top side gets a response, bottom side gets a response. The big thing is for GGA, their lanes didn't pull any of the gold. It's actually Rosethorn who pulled a bunch of the gold. And over the course of like the last 2 splits for Rosethorn, who's joined GGA for like this entire last year, coming out of Scouting Grounds, the development specifically for this player alongside the rest of the team has been immaculate. Because like Rosethorn placed, I believe it was on the last place team inside of Scouting Grounds. We weren't sure what the future was going to look like. Came onto GGA almost unexpectedly at the beginning, but has turned into an absolute beast, a fantastic facilitator for the side of GGA that has allowed them to make this like late game type composition really come in with his ability to make plays across the map. They've been able to lean into him as one of the reliable pieces for this composition, where they're playing for more of the late game rather than playing to like aggress with him or something along those lines.
And, you know, does it hurt to have 3 previous, Scouting Grounds 2020 members all working together on the same team? No big deal, right?
No,
GGA putting across the stag team there. But I love to see those synergies come. Like, everybody has different paths, everybody has different stories, but when it all culminates in everybody working together in these kinds of moments, I just think it's so cool. We'll see how that story unfolds here, but TL have a decent lead going into 11.5 minutes with a good amount of pressure around the map. Look at this. They're already moving to the second dragon.
Yeah, coverage for Harry has been amazing in this game. You can see that's culminated now in what is a 30 CS advantage over top of Yunbi, which is really good for the Azir to start off this game. Again, eventually, like, if you do not have magic resist for this Azir, you can get one rotation by the likes of LeBlanc as the laning phase goes on. But they've done so much to make sure that this LeBlanc has none of that pressure, has none of that trading ability, and can't really punish in the way that you would have wanted inside of this laning phase. And it's opened up for this Azir to really become something very strong, kind of a very big lighthouse here for the side of TLA, where normally this could turn very hard against them. Today, Harry playing some great League of Legends, making sure that this Azir pick is not going to get bullied, and it's opened up both bot push and mid push to allow more access into the river. Again, playing for that dragon stacking mechanic and forcing that fight when they want to on their terms, making sure GGA won't get to expand this into what is like a 30-minute game if they pull third dragon and threaten for that soul point.
Yeah, they're trying to make sure all the hatches are batting it down. That Rift Herald play will get a decent amount of gold for GGA in bot lane. See the trade continue to go Dokka's way in top lane. And that is the heartbeat, I feel like, of a lot of these games for both these teams, is how this top lane goes, how much pressure can be exerted from the top lane, and how does that affect all the other matchups. So far, it's been pretty quiet, with Dokka taking a decent advantage in that Camille that he picked before the matchup was decided.
Yes. Now, in fairness, the Gangplank oftentimes is picked for the later stages. Usually, Niall's Gangplank looks really good in the early phases because he's getting really constant trades, but with some of the pressure applied by Inori on that dive, using that ultimate into the bottom lane, it has been at least a little bit more selfless kind of a Gangplank that has come out here from Niall's to begin with, and it's not something we're accustomed to seeing. It will scale eventually, but right now it's feeling the effect.
Growth.
Oh, it is. Oh, it's very, yeah. Months ago, years ago, you might not have said that at all about Niles. But here, you can see that at least he is considering more of what the team is going to need. And that's what the GP is for here, is playing this kind of weaker side now that there's been resources allotted to make sure that their bottom lane, that Prismal, who's been a primary carry in some of the team fights, is going to be set up to do something like that, given that they've lost the first two Drakes, that they're going to need to try to take this game into later phases.
Yeah, and I do want to make a mention of the map so far. Newbie not able to necessarily get out of the lane as much as maybe you would want to, but on the other hand, Ayla is on the roam timer now towards mid lane. It does look like the bot lane of Golden Guardians Academy is going to match that roam timer here, but as a whole, Prismal already jolting back down to bot lane to get down to the ADC island down there. But that's something else that we haven't necessarily seen be super impactful in this early game, has been the support roaming and the influence that they can have with both these junglers.
I think Newbie really wants to do that as much as possible, but the push is still very heavily in favor of the Varus for the entirety of this early game. And so it's locked Newbie into a place where either he's roaming off a timer like this, where you see that the wave is actually just in the middle and Prismal's down here on his lonesome, where they shouldn't be able to punish him super hard. And actually, they're going to find out Inori right here, too.
They're going to try to. Canberra is there. Flash immediate by Inori. Knows he needs to get as much distance as he can. Will survive from the aggression of GGA.
And it leads to the setup of Rift Herald now, because they control no flash on the likes of Inori. He's got the ultimate in his back pocket if they really wanted to contest. The wave will start to get shoved by Dokka to potentially respond. It's going to, force Miles to go respond to something like that. Harry is the one difference maker where he has been shoving in. You can see that wave with LeBlanc, and Ayla was able to make his way back up to the top side of the map. They're going to try to punish on bottom side here.
He's really low. There's the flash. Does Prismal survive? Oh my god, Jan, you're a madman. He gets the trade back and the kill goes to Newbie. The TLA able to pull it around.
They can see, I think GGA notices that, like, okay, top wave's getting pushed in, mid wave's getting pushed in. We have no ability for our soul laners to move into the jungle. And with Ayla moving, they're like, okay, let's just go back. Let's cover our waves. Let's make sure we're continuing towards this late game strategy. And with the support going on bottom side, they feel comfortable going for it. But again, this is a hail of blades. Lethality Varus in the early game has the damage sufficient to take this one against the likes of Prismal. Yeah, I'm really curious about what happened here as well.
The flashes, man. You know the sweat is real here. The chains of corruption was cleansed. And,
oh, he flashed the shield. That was insane.
Still had the auto through. My
that
goodness.
was great. Yeah, that timing on that shield was like, for Newbie, was tragic because he flashes it to get the arrow off, doesn't block that, and then the shield falls before the auto attack actually goes off. And so that led to both of those projectiles basically avoiding that shield, allowing for that early trade damage from the likes of this Varus to hit on to Prismal. That gives the 1-for-1 trade, ends up going over to Newbie too, so Prismal feels really bad about what just happened. And all in that meantime, still, capturing that Rift Herald is kind of the end objective, which is going to let them break open mid lane. Now, all of a sudden, this Azir, this Varus, this Thresh feels so much better about impacting the remainder of the map. They can force this wave so far in that Yunbi no longer has the kind of impact they're looking for. Dives into side waves for Inori also open up incredibly as Team Liquid make their first really big step to attacking the remainder of this map.
Yeah, it's really hard for GGA to find a response here at this time, right? Like, you've got a lot going for TLA. You got a decent lead. They are potentially holding on to that 100% 15-minute win streak there. We'll see how that continues. But right now is the setup in front of the third dragon of the game for TLA. And it just looked like there's no real response able to come out from Golden Guardians.
Yeah, instead they're sticking to their guns right now. GGA, they're saying we can make it into the later stages of the game. Now, it is a forcing dragon the next time that this is going to come up in only 5 minutes time. So 22 minutes the timer you're looking at for this to be forced. Can we get Gangplank? Can we get LeBlanc? Can we get Ezreal into itemization that they're capable of taking a one-on-one or a team fight with? Or can they find a pickoff onto a Nori, onto Hayri, onto Yon, somebody like that, so that they can actually take an advantageous fight around this next dragon that's coming? Because otherwise, you're going to have to be dealing with an Ocean Soul for the remainder of the game at 22 minutes for a team that's already up. It's not a prospect that's hugely kind of, I guess, good for the likes of GGA here when they're thinking about how the longevity of this game is going to look.
That's the next big question here is, do GGA stick to their guns long enough for it to pull off? Do they go down without having ever pulled out those guns? We'll see how that works out, especially with this pressure going back towards the side lanes here for TLA. Now that they've busted open the mid tower, the outer tower, it's so much easier for them to move around the map and utilize that pressure. Leaning into that macro game we wanted to see from both these teams, TL have definitely taken the onus of that, as we do finally see the response going down in the side lane as Yunbi picks up his tower.
Absolutely. This opens up a bit of gold for Yunbi, who is, I think, he and Rosethorn have the ability to try to find aggression, especially when newbies around, so especially into the Ezreal lane, but also into Niall's lane. And on the opposite side, the real forcing moves are like Azir with a wall, and then also Inori. Inori has yet to really find too much in this game. Harry, what damage?
He might find it.
Oh,
that's
my
a lot.
goodness.
The flash comes out from Yunbi. He knows he's in some dire straits.
Very well played. I mean, Harry is loaded with gold right now, having the Lunes and the Sork shoes, and no magic resist on the likes of the LeBlanc means that, at no point could he really turn and take that trade as the wall was available for some additional burst damage. So Harry just able to shove his lane opponent out. I was going to say, if you can get Yunbi into other places on the map, over walls, lapse of vision, and try to find pickoffs into like Yon or some of the squishier members, maybe there's an opening to try to find something. And right there, I mean, at least in the side lane, it's a difficulty being down what is 46 CS at this point in the game. And on the other side, Inori doesn't have to make all these forcing moves. His map is just winning ambiently right now. I was going to say, I'd like to see him start diving for bottom tower, for top tower, trying to put more pressure into these solo laners from GGA playing this 1-3-1. But if they're just going to soak constantly again and again and again, all this pressure being waved on by the side of Team Liquid Academy, and eventually they're going to try to coin flip for the next dragon, I don't like that prospect for them. It feels like that is not a game plan that's going to end up going in their favor unless they are really confident in their individual ability to take this 5-on-5.
And you can tell Team Liquid Academy are confident in that fight, right? They are just literally buying their time for this 2-minute timer to go down for them to get their Ocean Soul. And Niles will get the trade back in towers and top lane, get a little bit more gold for themselves, try to set up for this 2-minute timer. But as you see, TLA are fine just walking around the map, knowing that they're calm, cool, and collected, and setting up for the next objective. And that is a difference that can be seen and potentially moved throughout the series.
I'm waiting to see if somebody can actually, pop up here for GGA as like the carry, because right now Rosethorn probably has to take up that mantle. But this early in the game, like, do you have trust in a Viego to be able to carry a team fight against a team as strong as this, especially with like Harry's nearly on like Zonia's, and like you could throw your ultimate at him, sure, you could try to pop him, but if he's Zonia's and you waste your ultimate, all of a sudden this fight looks so tragic. Not to mention, you think about forcing moves of like what is Camille hookshot and then a Nori with the ultimate as well. Like, how are you supposed to actually find an advantageous fight?
Niles is just dead. That's a side lane solo kill for Tokla. Big Dokes is back in town.
This is insane now. It feels like GGA is just slowly bleeding and dying off in this game, and they're not doing anything about it right now. They've got these 2 kills for Rosethorn, haven't been able to force anything. The Gangplank ultimate hasn't been able to force much. Newbie hasn't been around the map, getting the concussive blows, looking for aggressive plays. And now, just 1 minute before this dragon starts...
Stuck.
Like, they're
They
stuck.
are literally stuck. They can't do
They
anything.
lose their top tower.
That's a tier 2 tower going down to Dokla as well. He has grown such a lead in that 1v1, but now turning into more. We will see the commitment come down from Golden Guardians as we set up for this dragon. The TP already used by Yunbi. Niles does have his available as well to join the fight. But already TLA are setting up for it.
They are. They've got this kind of initial move into the river. They got a bunch of vision behind them. Harry.
He wanted it. He might get caught here on the side, though. He's getting very low. Paranoia is beautifully done. And now the re-engage from Inori. Can he get the fear off? That's going to be death sentence as well. Rosethorn goes golden. Yunbi is trying desperation here from GGA as Dokla rejoins the fight with his TP that just came up and gets the kill. Glacial Fisher does come across, but death sentence lands yet again. TLA will start up the dragon. Looks like Dokes wants to go for the fight here, though. He's getting oh so low. Goes golden. Niles might be getting caught out. Hayree's back, and he's back in business, baby, as Newbie goes down. Meanwhile, TL still taking the fights, are also taking the dragon. Hayree goes golden, gets a true shot barrage to the face, and Prismal gets his shutdown. Dragon finally goes down, and that's a Ocean Soul for Team Liquid Academy.
As previously prophesized here, actually, Prismal just going to go down
It's
as well.
not over.
Nope, not
Dokla
quite.
is just so mean. He's so mean.
He's picked up multiple kills in just the last few minutes of the game. GGA, it felt like they were playing this like very stalling strategy where they're like, okay, we desperately need to get into late game form. These dragons from TLA forced them into a situation where they're like, okay, we need to find a pickoff, we need to do something. Props to Rosethorn and Yunbi, who almost find a pickoff onto Hayree, but it's not enough. Even just that one kill probably isn't enough to win you that entire fight altogether after everything that they had burnt between the two, and they don't even get that one. He teleports back in, ends up being like multiple kills in his back pocket in exchange for everything and the Ocean Soul. Now they're down 4,000 gold and an Ocean Soul to a Team Liquid Academy composition that doesn't, it's not exactly the same kind of scaling with like Ezreal and everything in the back pocket, but it still looks great for them into this team fighting phase.
It absolutely does. And the paranoia just turns everything around. So much lack of vision there, and not being able to act in key moments is the beauty of Inori's ultimate. And yes, the turnaround is there. They are scrappy. GGA do not want to give that one up. But it doesn't matter. Now we'll see Dokla looking for another 1v1. Can Niles turn this around? Oh my god. He just gets obliterated, and that's it. Dokla is now unstoppable.
And Niles played that pretty well. He sidestepped a lot of damage there, but like that
did.
second Q auto attack was enough for
Just
half
did like
his health bar.
3/4 of his health.
Yeah, how are you supposed to respond to that? At that point, you're just getting outstatted from the side of Dokla. And with your side lane now gone, if somebody has to respond to him, otherwise he's just going to pull bottom inner. And Team Liquid Academy comfortable pulling off the Baron. They're going to go for the 4-on-4 fight. They could pull off if they don't feel comfortable.
They find Ayla, he goes golden. You still have to watch out for Dokla on the back. Rosethorn's already down to Inori. And they get back into the fight. Look at the back line, though. Dokla is on the back line. He's all by himself, but he's still taking him on here. He's still in the middle of everybody. And don't tell me he's going to get out as well. My God, he's still alive. And Prizzle, oh, he wants it. Yunbi wants it, but he can't do it. Yunbi goes down to Hayree, and it is catastrophe in this first game for GGA.
GGA looking so
he's
heavy.
gone. Bye, Prismal. You stepped over the line. You were on your side of the map, and Dokla says no. Here goes round 2. Dokla at a little bit of a disadvantage here, but it doesn't matter. The gold lead is still there. Just running into the meat grinder of Dokla is GGA.
I cannot believe what we're witnessing here. GGA, they slow bled out dragons, lose a fight around dragon, and then they're like flipping on both sides of the map. Now Niles all of a sudden has absolutely no business being in front of Dokla at any point in the game, especially after that where a couple of kills went into his back pocket. They pull Baron. This is GGA who just got outpaced in this transition from like this beginning of the game into the mid game and into this like 3rd, 4th dragon area. This was a struggle for TLA yesterday. They gave up a lot to 100 Thieves during this time period. They patched that up really quickly and punished GGA in this transition, and all of a sudden GGA, they don't get a late game. They're down 7,000 gold. Their side lane Camille is enough to probably just split and win the game on its own without 2-3 people responding. I do not know how GGA are able to stay in this game long enough for this Ezreal and GP to even have a fighting chance.
And the biggest thing that stands out for me right now is the fact that this team has come together with the hurdles that are presented to Team Liquid Academy, the things that have changed so late in the season, the fact that Spawn and everybody were able to come together and put out these kinds of changes so quickly, the turnaround that we've seen. And yes, this is only game 1 of a best of 5. There's a lot more to be said here, but just the starting notes from TLA is so much different from what we've seen growing over the past 6 days.
100%. In the midst of a split in which they were looking to compete, actually, Dokla was just going to run everybody
Dokla's doing
off
Dokla things, okay?
Yes,
he
he
just doesn't, you don't have to say anything, he's just there. And now we get the paranoia, and they're going to put the finishing touches here on the Golden Guardians. Change of Corruption hands from max range, and that's going to be Jan getting Yunbi. The towers are falling like dominoes now, and the end is coming quickly.
That it is. And again, to give props to the side of TLA, in the midst of the split, when they were kind of in that like 4th, 5th area, somewhere in there, and they had these substitutions for Dokla coming in when Jenkins stepped up to the main roster, when they needed another jungler, when like Mario stepped up to the main roster, it was Dokla and Inori who stepped in big for this team, and it got them into the 2nd place category, right behind FlyQuest for playoffs, and they came out in 1 with their original roster, but these two stepped in when the time was right, and today, they are stepping up big for Team Liquid Academy into a surging GGA who has done amazing, having lost in the first round, come all the way through the lower brackets. They put their foot down in game 1 and they say, and your run ends here right now.
You know, when I said the gauntlet was thrown down with the Camille, I didn't know how hard Dokla threw the gauntlet down. Like, there's a crater in the ground right now. Niles just got to pick it up and bring it back for game 2. I think that, as you were kind of mentioning for TLA, going up against GGA, who've had this run, who have had this momentum going for them, this is like an emergency brake pulled on the highway here for GGA, and they've got to be able to turn that around, be able to bounce back. They got a long series ahead of them here. And I would like, just for me, to go the distance, but we will see how that all works out. We'll also get a breakdown of game number 1 on the other side of this break. We'll see the analyst desk.